Welcome to this tutorial on basic calculations in Microsoft Excel.
In this video, we are going to look at two items. One is creating a mark sheet, and two, creating an attendance sheet. I have a question for you. What comes to your mind when you have a task ahead of you? Well, for me, what comes to my mind is the word plan. Because failure to plan is planning to fail. In the task that we have here, we need to think about planning first. And therefore, in this document, we have started with the first sheet and named it Planning Sheet. We are planning for a mark sheet. And therefore, as a class teacher, you need to think of the details that you need in the mark sheet. What information do you need to gather? So in our mark sheet, as you can see, we have the information on the admission number of the learner name, the subject marks, total, average, and grade. Next, we want to work on an attendance sheet. We want to track the attendance of learners in the class. And therefore, again, we ask ourselves this basic question. What is this most important information that we need about a learner? So as you can see here in our attendance sheet, we have three sets of information, and that is the date, the learner name, and whether the learner was present or absent. Now, as you work on your planning sheet, also format the sheet so that it looks presentable, clear, and you also avoid any types of confusion. That is why we've started with the mark sheet and gone ahead to the attendance sheet. Let's move to the next sheet, and in this sheet we are thinking about the mark sheet itself. We have done the planning. Now we want to work on the mark sheet itself. Remember, in the plan, we included the headings for the mark sheet. Now we are bringing the headings for the mark sheet in our next sheet, the mark sheet. So the headings include the first, which is the admission number, the learner name, and then we'll have maths, English, science. We'll also have a column on total, average, and also the grade. After you have done the headings, check whether they are fitting in the cells. If not, resize them by dragging to fit. And also go ahead and format so that your mark sheet looks presentable and clear. When we are formatting, we are thinking about the headings in bold and also increasing the font. And we are also thinking of the table having borders. So include the borders. It will make your work easy to understand, very clear, professional, and also presentable. The next bit now is feeding data in the mark sheet. Remember, we have the headings, so populating data becomes quite easy. So you have to key in the admission numbers, key in the learner names, and then what each learner got in each learning area. Well, the information that you key in the mark sheet is the exact information that you will need for feedback and for you making important decisions about the learner in the course of learning. As you key in the data, remember to use the Tab key to move across the cells. Use the Enter key to go down the cells. Well, we have successfully fed the required data. We have the admission number, the learner name, and then the mark for math, English, and science. And now what we are thinking about before we do the totals is what kind of grades are we going to attach to the learner mark. So you need to have a grading system that is clear, that you can apply. So this is our grading table, and we are now going to key in the grades for each particular mark, and we are saying between 80 to 100. The learners who score between that range will be getting A grade, and then those between 70 to 79 will give them a B. Then we move on to 60 to 69, will give them a C grade. 50 to 59, this category of learners are going to score a D. And finally, those learners who will score below 50 will give them an E grade. So you need to have a grading structure that is clear and that is easily applied. Something we need to mention about the grading is that for beginners, I encourage you to use the manual grading just by looking at the average scores and attaching a grade. But for experienced teachers, you discover that when you are dealing with large numbers, manual process is tedious and not workable. So you need to think of a formula, and this is the formula that you can use when you want to do automatic grading. We are going to look into that in a few. Now what we are looking at here is addition. We are using the prior knowledge in addition to do the addition for column F. So you key in the formula, then you drag the bottom of this cell, and you will have populated automatically all the totals for the students. Moving on to the average. Remember, we have our average formula that you need to apply, and we say that all formulas start with an equal sign. So again, here you key in the average and make sure that the formula is keyed in correctly. If you key in an incorrect formula, you don't get the result. You'll get error. So you key in this formula correctly. It's equal to average. Open the bracket C2 colon E2, close the bracket, and you hit enter. So once you hit enter, you get your average. Now this average, as you can see, it has so many decimals. So again, we shall be working to reduce the number of decimals to 2 decimal places. As usual, drag the bottom corner of the cell to populate the other cell, and then go to this decrease decimal icon and click it, and you see that the decimals will be decreased. We now have only 2 decimal places. So we've been able to give the total, the average, and now we want to work on the grading. We said earlier on that if you are a beginner, you may use the manual process to apply the grade. Just look at the average and give the grade. But if you are experienced and you're working with huge data, then you need to learn this formula. This is the formula for applying when you want to get grades automatically. So fill in the formula in one cell, and once the formula is done correctly, you hit enter, and you see it gives us the grade for the first cell, which is grade B. Yeah, let's zoom it so that you can see clearly that John has scored a B grade, and then we shall drag the cell from the bottom corner so that we populate the other grades for all the other learners. And there you are. So the formula has been applied in every cell to give us a distinct grade for each learner based on the grading structure that we created. Having done the total, the average, and the grade successfully, we now wish to format the table so that it is presentable, it is also professional, and therefore we shall use the formatting skills that we learned. We learned about bolding, we learned about borders, we learned about aligning to the left, aligning to the center, aligning to the right, and also justifying. So what we've just done in our table is that one, we have done the bold, we bolded the headings. We have also centralized the data, all the data except for column B, where we have aligned the data to the left. We can also go ahead and change the color of the table. Using the color button, you can check the appropriate color that you need for your table. So select your favorite color, and then you click on it, and there you'll be. We have settled on that color, and just from a distance now you can see that our mark sheet is well presentable. The next part, we need to work on attendance. Yeah, we want to track attendance of learners in the class. So we introduce another sheet here and we name it attendance, and then we populate the data that we have for the attendance sheet. We start with the heading, the main heading, which is the attendance sheet, and then we have the subheadings here, which are the date, the learner name, present, and absent. After that, then we format it, including the bold headings and also the borders for the table. Conclusion. In this video, we learned how to create a marks sheet, enter learner data, calculate totals and averages, add grades, design a reusable attendance sheet. These skills help teachers manage classroom records effectively.
Thank you for watching. Practice by creating your own class marks or attendance template in Microsoft Excel.